We open with the powerful words from Mark 8:36. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? A question that echoes through time, transcending the boundaries of millennia to resonate in our hearts today. Its potency lies in its simplicity, and its relevance is universal. It's a profound contemplation on the nature of success and the cost of ambition, a cornerstone in the book of Mark. But what does it truly mean? To unravel this, we need to delve deeper into the context. In the grand tapestry of the King James Bible, the book of Mark serves as a beacon of personal action and responsibility. It's a narrative that doesn't shy away from the harsh realities of life, but rather embraces them as catalysts for growth and spiritual enlightenment. This quote, nestled within the heart of Mark, is a stark reminder of this ethos. It urges us to question, what are we striving for? Is it wealth, power, fame? If the cost of these pursuits is our very soul, what is their true value? The book of Mark doesn't just pose these questions, it urges us to seek answers. It emphasizes the power of personal action, of taking responsibility for our own spiritual and moral compass. Its teachings hold a mirror to our actions and our motivations, prompting us to reflect on our choices and their consequences. In today's fast-paced world, where success is often measured by material gain, Mark's words serve as a poignant reminder. They challenge our perception of success, nudging us towards a more profound understanding of fulfillment. It's not about acquiring the world, but about nurturing the soul, about cultivating inner wealth. The book of Mark, in essence, is a call to introspection, to personal action. It's a reminder that our greatest responsibility lies within ourselves, in the preservation and growth of our souls. It's not a passive narrative, but an active invitation to engage with our spiritual selves, to understand our inherent worth beyond worldly possessions. These words from Mark remind us of the fleeting nature of worldly possessions and the eternal value of the soul. Mark, more than any other gospel, calls us to personal action. A particular verse encapsulates this, Mark 10:21. Then Jesus, beholding him, loved him, and said unto him, One thing thou lackest. Go thy way, sell whatsoever thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come, take up the cross and follow me. This verse, like so many others in Mark's gospel, invites us to contemplate the concept of sacrifice and the act of following Jesus. It encourages us to reflect on the idea of personal action and the sacrifices it may require. It's a potent reminder that our faith isn't just about belief, but about action, not just about what we say, but about what we do. The call to action in Mark's gospel is a call to transformation. It's a call to set aside our own desires and ambitions, to put others before ourselves. It's about more than just giving away material possessions. It's about giving away our very selves, our time, our energy, our love to others in need. This is a challenging message, no doubt. It's not easy to let go of our own wants and needs to put others first. But then no one said following Jesus would be easy. In fact, Jesus himself said it would involve taking up a cross. But what does it mean to take up our cross? It's a metaphorical expression, of course, but it's also a deeply personal one. To take up our cross means to embrace the challenges and hardships that come with following Jesus. It means to willingly accept the sacrifices required of us for the sake of others and for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. And yet, despite the challenges, Mark's gospel assures us that the rewards are great. Thou shalt have treasure in heaven, Jesus promises. Not a physical treasure, but a spiritual one. A treasure of peace, of joy, of fulfillment that comes from living a life of selfless love and service. In Mark, we are not just observers of the divine plan, but active participants. Our actions, our sacrifices, our willingness to follow Jesus all play a crucial role in bringing about God's kingdom on earth, and that truly is a call to action. The book of Mark is filled with powerful messages that prompt us to reflect and act. Mark 9:35 says, If anyone wants to be first, he must be the very last, and the servant of all. At the heart of Mark's gospel, we find a recurring theme: humility and service to others as a form of personal action. It's a concept that seems counterintuitive in a world where we're often encouraged to strive for personal achievement, to be the best, to be first. But Mark presents us with a different perspective, a different way to view success and greatness. Consider the verse from Mark 9:35. Here we're reminded that true greatness comes not from being first, but from being last, from being a servant to all. This is a message that resonates deeply, especially in a world that often feels consumed by self-interest and individualism. Humility, service, love for one another. These are the values that Mark impresses upon us. They're not just ideals to aspire to, they're calls to action. They're prompts for us to actively embody these virtues in our daily lives, in our interactions with others. Mark's teachings challenge us to redefine our notions of success. It's not about wealth, power, or prestige. It's about service, humility, and love. It's about being the very last, about being the servant of all. It's about putting others before ourselves, about living our lives in a way that reflects these values. In essence, Mark's gospel is a call to action. A call to live our lives with humility and love, to serve others, to put others before ourselves. It's a call to act, to embody these values in our everyday lives. It's a call to reflect on our actions, our values, our lives. In this reflection, we find the true power of Mark's message. It's a power that comes not from being first, but from being last, from being a servant to all, from embodying the values of humility, service, and love. Mark challenges us to redefine our notions of success and greatness, urging us to serve others. Mark does not merely present us with teachings, it presents us with a challenge. Mark 12:30-31 states, "And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength." This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." There's none other commandment greater than these. This is the challenge that Mark sets before us, to love God and our neighbor with all our heart. It's a challenge that goes beyond the realm of the theoretical and plunges us into the deep waters of practical application. It is a call that echoes through the corridors of time and space, resonating in the chambers of our hearts today, as it did 2 millennia ago, to love with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. This is a love that is all-encompassing, a love that leaves no room for half measures or lukewarm responses. It's a love that transcends the superficial and penetrates to the very core of our being. And then there's the challenge to love our neighbor as ourselves. This is not a call to simply tolerate or put up with or even be kind to our neighbors. No, this is a call to love them as we love ourselves, to look upon them with the same compassion, empathy, and care that we would extend to ourselves. This is a love that sees no distinction between us and them, but instead recognizes the inherent worth and dignity of every individual. This commandment, this challenge, is not an easy one. It's a challenge that requires us to dig deep, to confront our biases, our prejudices, our fears. It's a challenge that demands us to stretch beyond our comfort zones and reach out in love, even when it's difficult, even when it hurts. Yet it's a challenge of utmost importance, for in following this commandment, we align ourselves with the very heart of God's character. We embody His love, His grace, His mercy. Mark, therefore, is not just a book to be read, but a call to action to be heeded. As we journey through the book of Mark, we encounter deep and challenging teachings that prompt us to reflect and act. In the previous scenes, we've delved into the power of Mark, the call to action, reflections on Mark's messages, and the challenge that Mark presents. Let's take a moment to summarize these main points, emphasizing the call to personal action and reflection that is so central to the book of Mark. Mark's gospel, with its raw and unembellished narrative, compels us to confront the core of our beliefs and values. Its simplicity does not detract from its depth, but rather, it enhances it. The power of Mark lies not in the sophistication of its language, but in its stark portrayal of the human condition, its call to faith, and its challenge to act. The book of Mark is not merely a historical account or a theological treatise, it's a catalyst for personal transformation, stirring us to reflect on our lives and our relationship with the divine. It presents a Jesus who is not distant and aloof, but one who is deeply involved in the human experience, sharing our joys, our sorrows, our struggles, and our triumphs. The call to action in Mark is not a call to empty ritual or blind obedience. It's a call to live a life of love, compassion, and justice. A call to stand with the marginalized and the outcast, to challenge the status quo, and to strive for a world where everyone is valued, loved, and respected. The challenge of Mark is to not just be hearers of the word, but doers of the word. It's a challenge to live out our faith in concrete and practical ways, not just in our words, but more importantly in our actions. Mark's message is not just for the first century, but for the 21st century. It's not just for Bible scholars, but for all of us. It's a message that resonates with our deepest hopes and fears, our greatest joys and sorrows, our loftiest dreams and our darkest nightmares. May the teachings of Mark guide us on our journey, prompting us to reflect, act, and transform our lives in meaningful ways.